Are we live now? Okay. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to TekTalk, our webinar series on modern technology practice. This is our second episode on AI integration and how big a difference does it make in a company's success. I am Asim Rais Siddiqui, the CTO and the co-founder of TekRevol, and today I will be your moderator. We are honored to have our esteemed panel of experts, and I would like to introduce one by one. So, Andreas Welsch.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Andreas Welsch. I'm the founder of Intelligence Briefing, an AI advisor and newly minted author of the AI Leadership Handbook that's available on Amazon to help you lead AI in your company. I'm excited to be with you today and looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks very much for joining the stage. And then we have Roland Cozzolino.
It's good. Thank you for having this. I'm the CTO of a security company named InsightCyber, and I write a lot of AI. So that's my background.
Yes, I know like you have 20 years of experience in the AI and scalability security system. So yeah, it is going to be a lot of knowledge and wisdom from your side.
Yeah, definitely different than Andreas. So it's nice.
All right. And then we have Kelvin Fernandes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kelwin Fernandes, co-founder and CEO of NILG.AI. We're an AI strategy company in artificial intelligence, and I have a YouTube channel you can follow us also. It's called NILG.AI.
Yes, and you have 100K subscribers where you discuss about AI and business perspective.
Yeah, last week we reached 100K. Yeah.
Wow. So thank you again, everybody, joining this stage today. I think this is going to be a very interesting and useful discussion for our audience. So I would like to discuss a little bit about the topic and the agenda of the discussion today. So today we will be exploring the pivotal role of AI in driving the business success and improving operational efficiency, as well as like how it is fostering the innovation in the different businesses. So we will also look into the future trends as well as the challenges we normally face while integrating an AI in the organization. And after that, we will be having some sort of like the Q&A session from the people who are watching that. So yes, this is how are we going to start it. So without further wait, let's dive into the main discussion. And this is how we are going to start with the very first topic. So of course, I don't need to tell you anybody, but all these guys, these gentlemen have been really experienced in the AI integration and innovation, or maybe strategy. So all that kind of stuff is always been a part of their main forte. So, and you guys, of course, know, like we all agree that AI is not a buzzword anymore. It has like a very transformative role in the future of any organization right now. So I want to talk about more. I want to talk about how AI integration is playing an important role on any organization success. So question to you, Andreas, first, like how do you see this helping in any business success?
I think that's a great starting point, and I think it's actually the right starting point, because AI really only makes an impact if you can align it with your business strategy. So to the question, how do you define integration? What does it mean for a company? To me, there are three levels, right? First of all, at the business strategy level, what is it that we're trying to achieve as a company or as a business unit? How are we measuring that? And how can AI as an enabling technology help us reach that goal? And I think it's certainly also about technology. What is the right technology to help us achieve that? Is it AI embedded in applications that we use anyways, but maybe we don't know exactly that it's there and we can already use it? Maybe in some cases where it's more specific to your individual business, it means building something in your cloud environment with your trusted cloud providers software, and probably with the help of you in your teams as well. But all of that, right, is nice and fair if nobody adopts it, if nobody knows how to use it, if nobody gets excited about using it. So there's a people component in that as well, and a change management component of helping people understand why are we doing this and how does it help you. So from my point of view, business, technology, and people, absolutely critical.
Nice. Kelvin, you want to take this?
Yes, I agree with Andreas. I will just revert and I will say business people technology, because technology has been kind of easy so far, but people is tricky, especially when we talk about adoption of AI solutions. I believe there is where the real challenge is on embracing these solutions by people and making sure the business is not distracted by shiny objects, but actually on core processes that they need to optimize, right? When people think about AI, at least the way I like to think about AI is as decision making on steroids. Okay, so AI is just bringing us lower levels of uncertainty. So if we don't know how to make a decision, AI will help us through the power of predictions to lower this uncertainty, so we can make more efficient decisions. Also, when most people think about AI, they always talk about increasing productivity, but most of the times I haven't seen AI being correctly applied on higher productivity levels, but more on higher efficiency levels, like reducing resources costs, or effectiveness, like how can I get a better outcome with the same resources. And sometimes we are over focused on productivity, and the low hanging fruit on the organizations lie in improving the outcomes of the processes, as well as on cost reduction in a sense of efficiency. Yeah.
All right. And Roland, what is your take on that?
Yeah, no, both of them bring up outstanding points. The one area I would also discuss too is how it helps, well, and both frightens staff, but how it helps augment your team and provides better information for them to utilize. I mean, even if you look at the first one, which is a relatively simplistic one in customer service, you only have so many of those people. So if you have systems that are smart enough to guide whatever staff you have and to augment that staff, you are, while yes, you are reducing cost and whatnot, but you're hopefully getting really good information that you could then utilize down the line.
And I think one of the very important part is, like, it is at its core, of course, AI integration is all about embedding smart technologies into the business processes to enhance efficiency and unlocking the new opportunities for sure. And I'm sure you guys must have experienced that, and as well as there will be a more which you would like to tell to the audience as well.
Could you, in terms of you said the efficiency?
Not only in efficiency, but like unlocking the new opportunities in the business success, of course.
Yeah. I'd be happy to opine on that. You see it nowadays. A really good example of a fascinating use of AI is in the medical world, whereby information can be used to help them gain a better understanding of what is going on without them having to make a single diagnosis, on their own. And areas like this, and I mean, obviously there are many more areas, but these are things that actually help push organizations to utilizing AI in a more effective way.
I would say the part that gets me excited, I like that example that you had on the previous slide, even with customer service, right? We all are customers of some business, and we all have had some great customer experience and some maybe not so great experience, right? The great one is when you either get to a resolution because there is a chatbot or some assistant that is able to help you resolve that problem, work through that return, get information on where your shipment is, or maybe even if you need to call in, and that service agent has already the information about your case, knows about your purchase history, your interaction history, where there are really, really short wait times, if any at all. Super great experience. The other ones, right, where it's, hey, I'm a chatbot, I can help you with these 3 things. And you say, well, I need number 4 and number 5. and it's not able to help you or send you to an agent, and the session all of a sudden stops. Right? We have these different experiences. So I think AI is able to help you, especially in customer service, collect a lot more information and provide that better customer experience, either when somebody calls, what have they previously called about, what products have they bought, how should the agent maybe even navigate the conversation, especially if it gets more difficult or if it seems to be about a return. I think you see some of the telcos go through call scripts if somebody says, and I want to discontinue my service. Well, what if I give you a discount? What can I make or do to make you stay? These kind of things where AI can help guide your agent to retain the customer or maybe even upsell them in some cases as well. So I think great opportunity there, leveraging the data you already have and guiding people on the other end on the phone.
Exactly. And I think two important points you did mention about leveraging the data. Then, of course, like making an informed decision was never easy before, just because you always had that data, but you were not able to like extract the meaningful information before that. But now with these kind of AI tools and the solutions, now you have a better and like insights or information about your customer data, and you can now facilitate and you can serve customer on a better way. So it is like on the one side, and then the other side, it is all about like providing a support even to the extended levels and hours. Before that, like now with the bots and all kind of these customer services, you can be a 24/7 available, as well as like the kind of availability and navigating the discussion to the agents is now more meaningful. So in both ways, in every way, like the customer is getting the better experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a big opportunity, right? That's what's not only exciting, but also where you can measure what's the impact, what's the value, if you introduce solutions that help you do that.
So I think let's move to the next point, which is even more important. And I think Kelvin has already touched upon a little bit about the operational efficiency. So let's talk about like how AI transforming the business processes. Especially, like imagine reducing hours of manual work to minutes now. And that's the power of AI automation, which I think, and it is not only saving the time, but actually adding the accuracy as well. So like, what is your take on that?
Yeah. So the way I see all applications of AI fall into four categories, right?
Yeah.
And you can know which one you need to use only asking basically two questions. The first one is if you are taking a high risk process or a low risk process, right? And if we are taking processes with low risk, typically you can have two mindsets. One mindset is cost efficiency, and there you go with automations, for example, and you can go with certain type of logistic optimizations, etc. The other one is value driven. So you can be cost driven or value driven. And when you go value driven, you go, for example, with customer support, because in general, customer support is not so much of a cost efficient issue. It's more about delivering the most value you can to your customers, right? So on these low risk areas, we have these two. We have, for example, recommender systems when we are talking about value driven, because we want to maximize the value that we are getting. And then we have the other branch, which is high risk processes, right? And the way we believe we should embrace AI in high risk processes is in two ways. We can either prevent or we can reduce the chances of that risk happening. Okay, and in this case, we are talking about AI for mitigating a certain risk. Okay, and for example, we have predictive maintenance systems in this case, right? Or we may assume, or we can go on a recovery approach. In a recovery approach, we can have, for example, quality assurance or defect identification on manufacturing pipelines, right? So all of the categories or all of the tasks we have seen fall into one of these four buckets. You can be trying to reduce costs, so you can be cost driven. On automations, you can try to maximize value via personalization, or you can try to mitigate a risk, mitigating in the sense of preventing or recovering from a given risk. The way then you transform the process is typically by moving from, let's say, three forms of operations. One is people do whatever they want, and that's an anarchy, right? So people are just doing manual stuff, and now you are trying to bring standards via AI. The other one is you have an SOP, you have an operating procedure that has very strong rules and that cannot adjust to every situation, and then you use AI to customize your outcomes. And the final way is just AI augmenting the persons that are taking that operation. In any sense, it's the power of prediction applied to any of these three scenarios, right?
Wow.
Yes, Roland, you want to add something over here?
Yeah, Kelwin brings up a fantastic set of four. Just as an anecdote, one example that I've seen, and wrote, were algorithms for the advertising industry. And the reason being was that it would take, back in the day, to run an ad, you would have one, ostensibly a buyer of the ad, and you'd have a seller. The buyer of the ad, there were only so many of them that were available, and they could really only run one at a time. With AI, they were able to run 10 to 20 campaigns simultaneously. And now you've just optimized efficiency because you needed the people, right? They still didn't go away. They just needed help. And AI can really come in and be very, very helpful to organizations without, for example, as people are so afraid, without replacing employees. The goal isn't to replace employees. The goal is to help employees.
Yes.
So, Andreas,
and I think, yeah, and I think that this is one of the very common questions that being asked. I'm sure it must have been asked to everybody of you, like embracing the AI or integrating the AI into the business process is not about replacing the human or replacing the resources. It is all about helping them. So I want to know more about like your experiences in terms of like the practical application where you had experienced similar, and how did you actually cater inside your organization or with your team that actually made them understand that that was actually needed in order to like help them to like operate better, not to like replace them only.
So I would say maybe from my perspective, where I've seen great success is if users use it in the flow of their work. Right? If it is something that, if it's in an application or something that maybe your teams have built specifically for your organization, something that you use anyways, and there's now some kind of machine learning or even generative AI as a different derivative of it available, and it helps you do things that you haven't been able to do before. To me, that's where the value comes in. And by the way, I must say, I really appreciate how both Kelvin and Roland haven't mentioned Gen AI once in their response, because there's so much talk and so much hype still about, hey, we can all of a sudden create information, and it can summarize information, it can translate information, and not just text, but image and video and audio, and you get inundated by all these news. And if you're looking for information, there's an abundance, and it's hard to know what do I really need to focus on. So I think by bringing it back to, again, what's the business problem? And in many cases in business, it's about forecasts, it's about predictions, it's about recommendations. Absolutely a great way to guide employees there as well. But now also with generative AI, right, we can have writing assistants, we can have software development, coding assistants, all the likes. But doing that in the flow of your work, what you do anyways, I think that helps increase that efficiency and that productivity significantly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is the same question for both of you, Kelvin and Roland, as well. Like, can you share any example of implementing an AI in the organization where you actually see the real value in terms of like human who were like initially were afraid of like being replaced, but eventually that actually helped to grow the company or grow any particular piece of the process?
Yeah, of course. I mean, any healthcare project, you have worked a lot on healthcare. And there is a big issue adopting these kind of solutions because of liability. So who is going to be liable if there is a mistake, right? Is the doctor? Because when we are getting a prediction, a decision made by an AI, you are basically transferring responsibility, right, or control on that process from the human into an AI, into a model. And there is always resistance, especially because of liability. For example, if you are in the healthcare domain and a patient gets misdiagnosed, who is going to be liable or responsible under a court for that type of mistake? And that, of course, creates frustration when we are talking about high stakes, right? When we are talking more about, let's say, the general workforce that is being enabled via an AI, I have found it to be more about breaking all habits. And the way I like to guide the process is by following the general rule on the Atomic Habits book. Like, you need to make it obvious, you need to make it likable, you need to make it rewarding. So you need to align people around the objectives that you have in an organization now that you're embracing AI. So it's all about then managing humans and not so much about managing technology when you're embracing AI. It's who is getting afraid, who is losing control or who is losing power in the decision when you are migrating to the AI, and then how can you make the process as seamless as possible to their general operations.
Yeah, I see it. Well, I have personally seen it in the security world with some of the largest clients in America, in the world, actually, whereby, as all of you have probably seen, your poor set of system administrators pouring through logs. There's only so many eyeballs. And if there are 100,000 machines across multiple subnet masks all over the facility, how are they really going to pay attention? So the AI comes in and starts to pay attention to the things that you don't even consider. And then it, hopefully, when done correctly, it brings back a very small set of potential risks and or attacks, whether or not machines have been compromised. And it could be on one you never knew you had. I've seen it happen with customers who said, we don't even know what that machine does. And you're like, oh boy. Yeah, you'd be amazed at the stuff I've seen. And the AI goes in and finds it all and says, here's, by the way, how you stop it. If you guys remember the attack on Maersk, I always forget the name, that went from that shipping company out globally and took out the world in, a course of a couple of hours. That could have been prevented. And, there just weren't enough people, and enough people were not paying attention to everything. It's impossible. So this is where I've seen a lot of it used, AI, and it's been very effective.
Amazing. So, yeah, I think really good use cases and examples, of course, and I think that leads to another very important discussion, and my favorite about AI-driven innovation. We all belong to the technology, and we know innovation is the bloodhood of the growth, and AI is one of the catalysts, especially for me, company like me who are into the digital services. And for us, in order to be in the competition and be really growth centric, you have to innovate all the time. And with this kind of AI innovation now, you can get into the market ready product faster than ever before. So what are your thoughts about creating those new opportunities through the AI driven innovations?
Yeah, maybe I can start. Of course, AI is accelerating product development, it's accelerating getting feedback even from ideas you have, which allows you to validate much faster a larger amount of ideas during the early stages. One project that we did in the past was on the manufacturing area, in the manufacturing industry, where basically you need to create, let's say, a new product that fits a certain benchmark, okay? And that benchmark can be a series of tests that you will conduct, but you don't know how to get to that product fast, okay? So the way we use AI in that case was, let's use AI to forecast the potential benchmarks, okay, for a new product variation, so we can understand on all of these search space of potential product variations we can build, and think about all the materials you can use, all the diversity of materials you can use, and percentage, etc. What is a promising area that I need to explore? Okay, in this case, it was for a major company in the manufacturing domain, but you can apply this on your daily tasks. For example, you know which route you should take. You know that there are thousands of parameters you can explore. You can simply ask ChatGPT, and now let's get into Gen AI because it has to be. You can ask ChatGPT, give me feedback about this approach, or about this other approach, or about this other approach, or about this other approach, and then you pick the most promising one. Of course, this is in a small scale process. And when you're thinking about a business process, you can think of, well, what's the variability of, for example, let's say you're producing shampoo. If I put more soap into it, or less soap, or whatever chemical, whatever products you have in there. But overall, it's about accelerating the process of finding the right solution, the right combination of parameters on a search space. And that search space can be a features on your product, or can be about the composites or the materials on your design.
Solid.
So maybe to also pick up a bit on the question that Syed is asking, what's the impact of AI on developing third world countries, and where most of the people are not familiar with current technology? I think, there is a shift in when and how you look for business opportunities, and how to learn about these things. And I know in different parts of the world, access to the internet, access to information might not be the same as in others. But if you do have access to resources like the internet, right, there's so much information out there. Kelvin was talking about his YouTube channel. I have one of my own on AI strategy, right? There are lots of technical documentations, information, webinars. And I think if you have experience in some domain, right, it doesn't have to, or it doesn't really matter that much what that domain is, but if you have that experience, I think AI helps you craft your business idea, your business proposal. You can use it as a sparring partner to brainstorm, to bounce off ideas. You can ask it to take a persona of a business expert, of a strategist, of a marketing expert, and craft your business strategy, for example, around that. So I think just the fact that these tools are generally available, most of them are available even for free or as a trial, makes it a lot more accessible to many, many more people than previously. That's the part that gets me excited, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great point. They both bring up very good points. This one's a tough one to come back on because they kind of covered most of it. I will date myself and talk very briefly about. I'm a very big fan of being able to provide information back to the end user, such that they can act upon it. Granted, obviously, AI was used to figure out what's going on, and then AI was used, if you remember, and here's the part where I date myself. If you remember Windows blue screen of death,
yes,
everybody, you know what to read one? Yeah, but you don't want to. And that type of information is not valuable to somebody. So AI can be utilized to help best formulate the thoughts into things that are both actionable and descriptive, such that the end user has something to work with. And it is funny watching people stare at a blue screen of death, going, oh no!
Nobody wanted to see that.
Yeah, no, nobody wants to see that. That or when you drive smarts. Yeah, nobody wants to see that.
It is like one of the very famous joke in our organization. Like we mostly do the software and the mobile application, and whenever there is a bug, even after going live, after like multiple iteration of going with the UAT and everything. So few of my smart guys, they always come up to me like, dude, you know this, like you can still have a screen of death on the Windows. So why do you expect me to have like the bug-free application 100% even after 1 year? So there is always a chance. So there is a software is never complete and never bug-free.
Yes.
So yeah.
And
We
with AI,
discussed
you
a
don't know
lot,
what is
yeah.
going to be the outcome. So with AI, it's not non-deterministic. So you will expect some errors in the middle.
Yes.
So you need to be prepared for that.
Exactly.
Your processes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think this leads to like another very important topic, like maybe it is not a part of my presentation, but just because we are discussing about the importance and the correctness and the information that is being already available through the different AI tools and all that. But of course, like verifying that information and applying that information to the businesses is always important. So you have to be smart enough to understand like how to use these tools firstly, and the information which you are getting or receive through these generative AI tools or maybe some other AI tools, you have to validate first before applying that or like taking that as a for granted. Andreas, you want to go with this?
So maybe to share an example. A couple of years ago, I was working with a large multinational biopharma company, and we were helping them match their incoming payments to open invoices. And the tool we were developing at the time in an early stage version would give you a confidence score of like how closely do we believe these incoming payments actually matched your open invoice. And in some cases it was 88%, 90%, 91%. And the early adopters, the pilot users thought, hey, that's great, right? That has to be a match. But it actually turned out that it was incorrect. And we saw that only if we got to above 95%, 97%, that's where the real magic was starting to happen and where it was accurate. So the learning for us was, how can we communicate when something has a high level of quality and a high degree of confidence versus where it's you really should check that. And for us that meant changing to different scales. And instead of absolute numbers 90%, 97%, we added dots or stars. Basically 3 stars was you should really check that. 4 or 5 was you can trust that this is accurate, but you might still want to do some spot checks. So changing the way how you communicate with end users, building on what Roland was saying, I think is critically important also to drive adoption and drive awareness of what you're doing, and that people do start to use it.
Good.
Right. So, Kelvin, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, no, I think most of the times it's about making sure you understand how the person will react to the mistakes, making sure you keep a human in the loop most of the times, especially on early stage adoption of any process. Even you are aiming for an automation, we always avoid an automation. It's like, let's just put a human in the loop. We are just empowering users just to validate if the process is working at a performance level that we agree. And even when we validate it works well, most of the time we don't truly automate a process. We just do like filtering of the easy cases, as Andreas is saying. Like, these are the easy cases that we can automate. These are for a human. So we keep control of things, because AI will always fail, right? So it will never be 100% accurate, as humans are not 100% accurate. It's just same process, right? So your process has to be bulletproof. Like, how will I react if there is an error? How can I prevent those errors from happening? And typically it goes into using AI as a filtering option instead of just replacing your human workforce, just filtering the easy cases, or having a fallback process task after the AI has done his job, right?
And Roland, I think that is like even more important for you in terms of like, just because of the security space and the domain. Of course, the chances of making a mistake is very, very less, and you actually do not have any freedom over there, of course, and utilizing these tools and like trusting on the information and applying to the processes and all that. How difficult is this to like just relying on the tools and moving forward with those initiatives which are being provided through this information, or like how do you see this?
Well, it's definitely it's difficult to build. Both of them bring up really valid points. You know, in the security world, it's a lot of it is similar to what Andreas said. Like they don't need to know percentage likelihood, because yes, 97% is probabilistically way more accurate and in a confidence score. So we do a similar thing. We show graphics to display, hey, you got a problem, color changes, simple things, right? For the end user to say, oh, I know what that is. You don't want to see a whole bunch of red stuff. That's never good, unless, of course, you're in Japan, where it's very confusing, where if you look at the stock market, red means up and green means down. But you know, we again, it's a lot about providing insight and providing guidance, all of it, and doing it in a way that's easy to digest.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think another important topic or the point about like, and I think we discussed a little bit briefly before some few minutes ago, but I want to spend some more time on it, like especially the challenges and consideration in the AI integration. And of course, we know that AI implementation is not always without hurdles, and whether it's a technical challenge or maybe cultural resistance, or maybe just an understanding barriers to like understand how the AI strategy works. So how do you guys see this?
It can be difficult. It doesn't have to be. Obviously, it can be extremely difficult. And then there's always the concept of, you know, learning and training and all these kinds of things that could, some companies, it could take months. I mean, I've seen implementations of software and systems take not only an enormous amount of resources from the supplier of the software, like an enormous amount, but like upwards of 6+ months just to get it up and running. I kind of find that unacceptable, but it happens. And I think a lot of it is about implementation and how you build your stuff to ensure that you make things learn as quickly as possible, make it process data as quickly as possible, and provide means for the customer, meaning our own customers, to deploy your solutions in a way that is not evasive, but it's that is much more trivial than it will be for many other products.
So if I can share, I would say from my experience, a lot of it starts with talking to your people, talking to people on the ground who are running business operations day in, day out, whether they're in finance, in procurement, in HR, wherever they are. They know where the issues are, right? What is taking longer than expected? Who do they always need to go back to for information? Why is somebody not entering the right information where they actually should do it. So they can be an extremely important source of information where you should focus. And from there, taking that to your AI team, to your IT team, to your data team, whoever is in charge of figuring out what the company should do with AI, build an idea funnel, collect this information, see what is, what's feasible, what's quick to implement. So we don't need to spend 6 months boiling the ocean, getting data and working with our vendors and these kind of things. And especially from my point of view, where it's about differentiating your business and driving that differentiation, that competitive advantage. That's where you would usually look at building something on your own, or using a platform, working with a trusted solution provider that can help build some things for you as well. But it's all about prioritizing. So it's one of the concepts, especially that innovation funnel and idea funnel, that I have written about in the AI Leadership Handbook, to give leaders guidance on how do you think about from ideation to validation, implementation, operation, and focus on the ones that do make sense. And then the integration part is really on a technical level, like we talked about. Is it embedded in an application you use? Is it something that you ask your provider or your IT team to build for you? But also, to Kelvin's point earlier, people and getting them to use it and getting them to adopt it and integrate it in their process. So it's really, this all-encompassing idea and concept.
Yeah.
There are certain industries that I have found to be more likely to embrace AI, for example, the financial services industries, and for example, security, because those industries, people are used to think in terms of uncertainties, in terms of risks, and in terms of getting a prediction somehow, for example, of a credit score for a loan approval, whatever. They have thought in these terms for decades. So AI resonates with their culture, whereas you go into, for example, manufacturing, it will be way more difficult for them to switch a mindset from very highly reliable systems into something that sometimes fails and produces weird results, right? And hallucinates things. So the way I think you can accelerate the adoption of AI is the same way that you will do with any other technology or any other process. First of all, you need to align your people. You need to align your incentives, your social contracts, accountability, liability, etc. So you need to align all your team about where you want to be. Then, as with any other process variation, the initial months, the initial experience has a lot to do with the long-term adoption. So you need to guarantee that on that very initial step, where the human brain has still high levels of plasticity of the way it will react to the process, you guarantee a good onboarding. So you need to make sure that during the initial stages of any adoption, you are there monitoring people in a way that you give short-term feedback loops on how you are using AI and how, guaranteeing alignment between the right usage you expect it to be and what people are doing. Because if you miss that time window where your team is still somehow plastic around the way they are thinking about the AI, it will take you 10x more time to embrace it. So the first day, from the first day until, I don't know, a few weeks, months after the release of any AI, you need to be there monitoring if people are using it, if people are agreeing or not with AI, correcting any mistake as soon as possible, and of course keeping everybody aligned on where you want to be once this consolidates into a final solution. Of course, there will be some frustration, there will be some resistance, but this should be like the process to remove it.
It's interesting, Kelvin. You brought up an interesting one for me. If you look at the factory settings, I'll go into automotive, because automotive is, if you've ever seen a floor in a car factory, I don't care which one, you could pick any one you guys use. All of those robots communicate in such a timely fashion over non-secure lines, because it would take too long to encrypt and decrypt data. And they run using Modbus, and they run with a little Raspberry Pi plugged into this system. You could ostensibly come in code in Modbus and tell a robot to swing its arm at 300 miles an hour and, pray to God nobody's in the cage. And this is like, these types of things work great in, you are 100% correct. They are difficult, these factories, to understand why would it be needed until you show them. And then they go, oh my God. And you're like, I can get in from, inside you. If I'm inside your building, I can get into all of your robots. You don't want me to do that. I just wanted to bring up that point.
That's right.
I'm looking at the chat and I see a number of great questions by participants.
Sure.
If it's okay, I'd like to address
Yeah,
some of them.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think there's one excellent question there around how can companies measure the success of their AI integration? Yes, exactly. Specific KPIs or benchmarks. I often get that question from business leaders. How can we measure the success? Right? Many people want to see happier employees, fewer clicks, these kind of fuzzy, intangible measures. But to me, at the end of the day, is how can you measure the improvement on a business process? What's the improvement that we're able to make on a task level? If we're able to, accelerate certain things or automate certain things, what are we saving at the end of the day? And starting with that question at the very beginning, before you start gathering data, before you build your model, is critically important. Being able to understand what is it that we're actually trying to improve, and can we measure this at the end of the day? So business metrics, business KPIs, to me is that number one thing. Happier employees will come along the way, fewer clicks probably as well, but starting with what's the business metric we want to improve. And I think that kind of dovetails into the misconception as well, right? If you follow the news, there's so much talk about, hey, AI can do this, and here's a new model, and you can create videos and images, and look what OpenAI came out with. All of that is helpful and nice and good to understand, but I think it also leads to a lot of misconception that AI can solve any problem, or that even generative AI is now the superior solution when it comes to AI. And that neglects the fact that there are different technologies, different capabilities that you need for different problems. Generative AI is not going to create your demand forecast, right? You still have your statistical models that have been built over decades and refined in those robust algorithms. So also understanding when to use what is a critical part of that equation for me as well.
That's a good point.
Right. Yes, and I think we do like experience like in our industries, like there are a lot of misconception about integrating and like using the AI tools and the models which we are creating for ourselves. But yes, in order to like inform and make the people understand things is more important. Then of course it is the responsibility of all the companies as well as like the AI market leaders, people like you, to like explain the people in a very simple manner that how this can actually help and what is the right way of doing it. Of course, I know like there is a big part of like the ethical and the responsible AI, but that's a very different topic. But in terms of like very simple tools, of course, people have to understand this first, and there are a lot of misconception we do come across on the daily basis. So do you guys want to like share any of that information? Like this is because like one of the question we have from our audience, they are asking something very similar about the common misconception.
Yeah.
Common misconception. Yeah. Sorry. Boy. People generally take OpenAI to mean all-encompassing artificial intelligence. OpenAI, ChatGPT. I'll be a little bit more specific. ChatGPT and Google's flavor of the month. These are components of something that do something specific. They are not the be-all and end-all of AI. They are not solving a lot of the problems that you would have to approach to best make an organization more efficient. I mean, they might, if you're, for some reason, it is helpful on a help desk, whereby it could provide smart answers to questions, but that's really, the biggest misconception is that people aren't seeing the total all-encompassing world of AI, which is very multifaceted and has a lot of varying components. And it's when they're used in conjunction with one another in an effective way that you are very, very helpful to an organization.
Just come with other two misconceptions that I have found to be pretty common. One of those is thinking that AI is analyzing cause and effect, right? AI is just looking at correlations. So it's not like it's understanding the consequences of changing a feature or changing a variable. And then people take for granted the results of AI as being the consequence of the input data. And the other one, and I believe this is more true nowadays than it was before, is that it's a misconception that you need a lot of data. Especially now with generative AI, you need less data for certain tasks. And by less data, it means less personal data or private data about your company, because foundation models are pretty good at the vast diversity of tasks. Yes, you need a lot of data if you want to have the best model in the market for a certain task, but no, you don't need that much data if you just want to make your process more efficient. Why? Because sometimes with a small amount of data and taking the average or the seasonal average of your demand, and by adjusting to that, you will already improve your as-is situation. So sometimes even with marginal amounts of data, you can improve your business process, especially if you're not doing anything to improve your processes right at this time.
Wow.
Right. So I think we have like only 6 minutes left. So I want to take one more question before we sign off. So there is another important question. It's a very simple one, but yet important one for a few of the companies. How can smaller companies with limited resource effectively implement AI without the need of large-scale infrastructure?
Oh, okay.
So again, happy to take a stab at it, and curious what others think. I think, if you look at the industry, if you look at software, so many vendors have been adding AI into their products over the last 18 months, 24 months, ever since ChatGPT dropped on the world, and everybody said, "Wow, what can we do with this now?" Right? So there's a high chance that software that you use today either already has AI features embedded and you might just not know about it, or that there's a higher tier version of the software that has AI. So my encouragement is always to look for a software that you use, either look at the vendor's website or talk to your vendor if you have a direct sales rep, and ask them about it, see what is available, and then understand, is that a problem that we have? Do we feel using AI in this part of the process in the software would help us, and how much do we think we can save, right? Because I also see a lot of times starting to boil the ocean with we want to build something ourselves, might not be feasible, right? Or to Roland's point earlier, might just take to longer project timelines. That kind of also dovetails into the question of AI integration can it also be costly? Yes, I think if you approach it from just a technology point of view, that's where I see lots of money pits and people pouring money into these projects without getting good results or getting results quickly. So understanding what are you using today? Is there AI included? We just have not activated the feature. Or is there a higher level tier that we should be using? And again, if it's differentiating to your business, then I think there's a great way to explore to build something in addition to what your standard vendors are offering. Curious what Kelvin thinks on this.
Yeah, so I believe nowadays it's way easier for small, medium companies to get into AI than it was before. It's not more than, I don't believe nowadays you need a large scale infrastructure to do a lot of AI applications. You need to make sure that you are tackling the core of your business, because it will take some time until you get the benefits, until you get the people to adopt it, etc. So don't focus so much on the technical part, focus more on the human component. And if it is not a core process in your business, at some point you will get exhausted. So infrastructure today, I don't believe it will be an issue. Once we got cloud, everything became elastic and you don't need to have a massive investment on hardware or whatever. You just go to the cloud and it scales at the same speed as your business does. But human frustration doesn't scale as elastically as we will think of. So the big resource here will be always to change. So will be change management, won't be actually technology, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was perfect. Because I was going to say one of them they brought. Yeah, if you look at like cloud services, especially, and if you do run in a cloud, there are a lot of tools available already in the cloud. It's not like you're installing and creating your own stuff. And if you're a true small business, it's very unlikely you're running all your own servers. You might. It becomes a little bit more tricky, but there are also open source tools available and whatnot. It just would be a little harder to implement. But you don't need that much resources, and you definitely can leverage everything that's out there and either do it really quickly or spend a little bit of time to get it done right.
All right. I think this is where we would like to wrap up our session over here. I thank you very much to all of you guys, sharing a lot of information, and even I feel like 1 hour is not enough to discuss these all factors. There is a lot to learn, there is a lot to share, but yes, time is a constraint. But I think strategic AI is no longer an optional, and it is a critical factor for every business success. So again, thank you very much for joining this stage, and just briefly let the people know how if they want to reach out to you. So what's the best point of information that they can reach out to you? Maybe LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, LinkedIn works pretty well for me. Yeah.
Me as well.
Yeah, for me too. I'm on LinkedIn, and I saw we didn't get to the ethical question. I wrote quite a bit about it in the AI Leadership Handbook, so take a look at that as well, how you can take people along the journey and in the loop. I talk about that quite a bit because it's an important aspect to how you implement AI. Yeah, please do connect on LinkedIn.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.